Welcome everyone. Today we're doing En El Centro, which is our series in which we interview notable alumni, staff, students, and faculty in the Latinx community at Virginia Tech. And today's our first one in the series. And today we're going to be interviewing Juan Espinoza. So thank you for joining us, Juan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So my name is Ashley Cruz, and I'm the student program manager of El Centro. Today we're going to try to keep it at 30 minutes, and we look forward to learning more about your experiences. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So can you introduce yourself in the way that you would like to be introduced?
Sure. Well, I go by Juan. That's plenty, but my full name is Juan Espinoza. I'm the Associate Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, as well as the Director of Undergraduate Admissions. So I hold two roles here at the university. I'm a graduate of Virginia Tech and graduated back in 2004 with a dual degree in political science and public and urban affairs. Absolutely loved my time here. I ended up being here for 5 years because of that second degree. So much so that when I graduated, I ended up sticking around. So I've been here since 1999, pretty good amount of time. I don't know if I'm considered a townie quite yet, but it's got to be pretty close to that. I'm originally from DC. So I grew up, I was born in Falls Church, grew up in Burke, Virginia, went to Bishop O'Connell High School, which is in Arlington. Absolutely, love that area, miss the food. But again, Blacksburg has just been a fantastic place to me. And I love being part of the institution because of the mission of the university and its focus on doing good and serving others. I feel like I've got the best job in the world. I really do.
Oh, that's awesome. So what made you come to Blacksburg in the Virginia Tech area?
Yeah, well, it was really my first college visit. And like many of you out there, when you start that discussion with your parents, they want you close, right? So in Northern Virginia, they want you to be sticking to some of the universities up there. My older brother didn't help. He went to George Washington University, which is in the city of the District of Columbia. So he stayed really close. And he actually lived at home for some of those years while he was going to college. I really wanted to go out on my own. I saw his experience and saw what that urban feel was like, and I just wanted to try something different. So I convinced my parents to bring me down for open house here during the fall. And I was interested in business at the time, so they had one specific for College of Business, Pamplin College of Business. And I remember stepping out of the car, and the leaves were changing, which is just so beautiful in the New River Valley. And looking out and just being in awe that such a place could exist, completely focused on learning and doing good. When you look at some of the other universities that are more urban, they're swallowed up by the city in many cases. But Virginia Tech, it's here because of Virginia Tech, right? Blacksburg is here because of Virginia Tech, and the focus and the community is built around the university. And there's such a great relationship between the town and the university. So it continues that positive energy. I felt that from day one, and my parents, who were hoping that I was going to stick closer to home, were quite pleased with what they saw. In fact, I remember my mom saying, okay, I can see this being home for 4 years. I'm okay with that. They felt comfortable. They felt welcomed. And I did as well. The university was this a perfect fit for me, as a lot of people in admissions say.
No, that's awesome. I have to actually relate to your situation as well. Like, this is the only school I came to visit, and I immediately fell in love, and this is where I selected to come. So it's awesome. And I was actually born in Arlington, so
okay,
some area, yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome.
pretty good.
So like, what are some things that you missed from your college years here at Virginia Tech?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a question. I miss a lot of my friends. That you create this network while you're here, that becomes so close to you, right? You create this camaraderie that just never seems to fade away. I'm lucky that I had a very close-knit group of friends. That stuck around like I did after graduating. One ended up starting his own company, Torque Robotics, which is based out of here in Blacksburg. They were recently acquired by Daimler Chrysler. So he's doing well. I've got another one who ended up working here at the university. And I've got an additional close-knit friend that is working up in DC, but he comes down for quite a good number of weekends and for game days when we were having those pre-COVID. So I was fortunate that, you know, you've got a big network, but those that are closest to you, you really try to find ways to make that work. I was lucky to have so many kind of stick around here in town. But I miss the freedom to where you had a lot more control of what you did during the day. You know, of course, everyone's focused on the academics, or at least they should be. But you had a lot of flexibility on when you were going to focus on your schoolwork during the day, and a lot of flexibility, except for class time, to kind of when you wanted to study, when you wanted to hang out with friends. And, you know, when you start working as a professional, a lot more is dictated to you on when's going to happen when.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So like, how do you identify yourself as like Latino, Hispanic, Latinx? Like, how do you identify as?
Well, I've really held to Latinx as a term. I think it's very inclusive. I know there's a lot of good conversations taking place around that term right now.
Yeah.
And I think those are good conversations to have. I know I've had several conversations with some older people who are a little confused by the term, but I think it's important that anytime we as a people have an opportunity to be more inclusive, to ensure that all of us are being represented, right. We try our best to pursue that. And so although Latinx might not be the perfect term, it's at least a step in the right direction, right. of us trying to truly represent everyone that's part of our group.
Right, and as a director of admissions, like, you're aware of, you know, being inclusive and, you know, welcoming people of all backgrounds into the school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's been the theme since I've started in 2017, is making sure that we're reflective of the demographics in the Commonwealth. I mean, as a land-grant institution, we really should look like the state. I mean, we're here to serve all Virginians. And when I took over in 2017, we were behind some goals, very aggressive goals that our president, Dr. Sands, set on making sure that we were going to go in the right direction of being a representative of Virginia, and not just in race and ethnicity, but in access and you know, first generation status, low income status. We really wanted to be accessible. And so we've instituted some remarkable change here in the admissions office to make sure we're stepping in the right direction. And I was pleased that for this entering class that just started, the public was able to see the momentum that we're moving towards and the great progress that we've made. We had a record percent of African Americans represented in our freshman class, 8%, which is a significant jump from the last couple of decades where we've been kind of stuck at 3 to 4%. And Latinx, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, they are at 10.4% representation in our freshman class. And that is a huge jump from, they've been between 4 and 6 for a good while. But it's a huge benchmark, because not only is it a historic record for Virginia Tech and raw numbers and proportion, but it is the first underrepresented group that we've had here at Virginia Tech that is no longer underrepresented. They're representative of the demographics of Virginia, because we're 10% Latinx in Virginia. So huge step, huge benchmark, really exciting for Virginia Tech, really exciting for our office to see such progress in such a short amount of time. It shows that we've changed in our messaging. What we've changed in the process itself is making it more accessible, to making it more fair and more transparent.
No, that's awesome. So a question I had based off that is, like, what is the difference between being underrepresented and being underserved? Because I know that now we're
great question. Yeah, so underrepresented is, you're underrepresented by race or ethnicity. So African American, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, Native American, Hawaii Pacific Islander, or you choose, excuse me, 2 or more races, and one of the races you select is part of one of the underrepresented groups that I just talked about. Underserved can be first generation, it can be Pell eligible, low income, it could be veterans. So it's not tied to race or ethnicity, but showing a background that isn't truly representative in the larger group that we have now. Excuse me.
No, you're good. So what has been like your biggest challenge as a Latinx person in the New River Valley area, Blacksburg area?
Yeah, I would say the challenge was when I was a student. There were so few of us. Out of curiosity, recently I looked at how many Latinx were part of the freshman class at that moment in the fall of '99. It was less than 100 in the freshman class. So that was a challenge in that there wasn't a lot of us here. And
Yeah.
so creating networks, having people surrounding you that know your culture and background. And I know how diverse we are when you break it down by country, but still,
Yeah.
there's a level of acknowledgement, of value, of where
Yeah.
you're coming from and understanding. And so that was a challenge. So it's been great to see those numbers grow, and it's been great to see that. The community here has always been very welcoming to me and my family. I remember when I graduated. Oh my gosh, you know how everyone comes, right? When you talk family, for for a lot of families here in the U.S., you think mom, dad, brother, sister, maybe grandparents that come for graduation. Man, I mean, we bring the whole circus out. You got tios and tias, and you got everyone coming, and it's great because it's a celebration. It's not just about you; it's about the family, right? We as a family are moving forward. My parents are both from La Paz, Bolivia, so I'm a first generation, here, and so it was a big deal for them that their kids get a college education. It was a huge deal for them. And so for each of us, there's three of us, for each of us to get a college degree, at least. Some of us moved on to further studies beyond that. It just shows progress for the family.
Right.
There's a lot of pride. And so it's great to see that on graduation days because everyone takes pride. It's not just about Juan, it's about us. Look, we're moving forward. We're doing the right thing. And it's just so much fun to see that.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I'm a first generation student and my family's from Mexico, but I'm sure like when graduation comes, around the corner in the spring, they're going to be very happy and excited. It's going to be a different graduation maybe, but, still celebration.
Yeah, that's true. They're tough
accomplishment.
times.
Yeah, so like, what kind of food do you like to eat around the New River Valley? Like, you said your family's from Bolivia. Do you get to like eat any of that food around here?
No, I haven't been very successful finding that around here. So that's where going home is, it feeds the soul because you're reconnecting with family, but it feeds your stomach too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because mom is wondering why you're so skinny and try to take advantage of why you're home. And with our culture, everything is surrounded by food when you're doing family gatherings. So it's part of the experience. And so as everyone knows you're in town visiting, then more food shows up. I love it. I eat well when I head home. In this area, I've actually, I don't eat out a lot. So I was fortunate because when COVID-19 started really wreaking havoc and restaurants started, closing and then trying to grapple with that, our family, we're a family of three. So my wife and then we have a 14-year-old, kind of took that in stride because we always just kind of cook at home. And so, so I've always been pretty pleased with what we've been able to kind of throw together here at home. My wife's a great cook. The 14-year-old is learning how to cook too. And I've got some dishes and help out in different ways. So we kind of create the culinary experience here at home.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask you that, like, what has been keeping you, occupied during this pandemic? But I see that you're cooking a lot. Anything else that you've been doing during the pandemic that's keeping you, busy?
Yeah, I would tell you work, Zooms. A lot of my day is now made up of Zooms. I'll wake up pretty early and try to have some time for myself to do exercise and just kind of put things together. But then around 8 o'clock, the Zooms begin and they'll go through 5, sometimes later. And then we as an admissions office are trying everything we can to reach out to students when they're available. So we're doing more evening programming too and weekend programming. So sometimes we got some late night stuff that pops up, but we just want to make sure anyone who's interested in Virginia Tech has an opportunity to hear about Virginia Tech.
Awesome. That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
I wish I could do more reading, but I'll be honest with you, that hasn't really happened yet.
Yeah, I feel you. I just bought a book, but I haven't gotten lazy to read it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So since your appointment to directors of admission, you have led to like, reinventing the model that Virginia Tech used to use, and you shared new application platforms such as Coalition and Common Application. So what was your biggest challenges doing this?
Anytime you institute change, it makes people nervous.
Oh,
Even if they believe in what you're moving towards, even though they recognize change is needed, nobody likes change. This is what I've understood.
yeah.
It's some view it as a threat, others view it as something else they're going to have to learn, and so it's a delicate balance when you're working with the community to do as transformational change as we've done. And I give a lot of credit, not just to myself, but to my team in the undergraduate admissions office and to my boss, who's Latinx as well, Dr. Luisa Havens Gerardo, who's our vice president or vice provost for enrollment management. So she kind of leads, she oversees not just our office, but registrar, financial aid, winter, summer, and college access collaborative. So she's our fearless leader taking on a lot of this. One thing that we discovered is a lot needed to be done. It was clear it needed to be done quickly. And so we're really unique in that you're not going to find any other college university that's undergone as much change as we had done in 18 months. It just does not exist. We, as you mentioned, introduced a whole new application. We introduced how to review that application differently to make it more fair and transparent. We changed our recruitment process where we utilize data a lot more and how we approach new markets and markets that we had a great presence in. We changed our visitor experience. We made it much more accessible to be able to come and visit us. This is pre-COVID. And we hit a record of 50,000 visitors, which was over a 50% increase from what we were seeing before. So all of these things that we changed, we did quickly, but they were all tied together. So it would have been difficult to chew a phase-in implementation. We just had to rip the Band-Aid out, do all these changes, do them quickly. And we knew when we did that we would see success. Now, the success we saw from the first year was a lot more than we were anticipating, but that just shows how, in many ways, we were artificially limiting the demand that was here at Virginia Tech. And by being more aggressive with the recruitment, by being more open and accessible, we were truly allowing a whole other population to access our university. Here's a great example. The fee waiver. So everyone who applies for Virginia Tech, or really for most colleges, universities, you got to do pay an application fee.
Yeah.
For us, it's $60. It doesn't sound like a lot of money for some families, but for others, that's the difference between applying and not applying. And so prior to our changes, this is pre-2017, if a student needed to get a fee waiver, they had to go to their guidance counselor and essentially identify themselves as low income, because they're saying, I need help to get a fee waiver, which no one wants to have that conversation, right? That's not fun. Then after you're telling your counselor that you're poor, they have to call our office, answer a series of questions on behalf of the student. And then we would give them a fee waiver. And it was a code that they would have to go back to the online application and put that in a box that wasn't even labeled. And it was case sensitive. So it was a series of lowercase, uppercase, and numbers. And it was a disaster. And what we saw was only about 5% of our pool was taking advantage of the application fee waiver. And what that meant is an even smaller portion of our pool was low income. So we were limiting a group that this couldn't even access the process. And so when we introduced a new application, we switched the fee waiver to a series of questions that any student could answer. And they were not confusing. They weren't cryptic questions. One was, are you on free or reduced lunch? You said yes to that, then you qualify for a fee waiver. Because if you qualify for that at the federal level, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get a fee waiver. And we saw the percent of our low-income pool for our entire applicant pool jump from 5%, which has been the same for 10, 15 years, to over 20%. Imagine that, right? You remove a barrier, and then you got a lot more people looking at you. So again, we're really pleased that we as an office looked at every barrier in the process and tried our best to either minimize or reduce that barrier.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
an accomplishment. So what has been like your biggest accomplishment as a directors of admission? Like, would you say that that's your biggest accomplishment, or do you have
I
another?
think, yeah, I think the transformational change is really a once in a career type of thing for admissions. I mean, we essentially recreated an admissions office from the ground up,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been able to see huge success, which I'm just so very proud of for my team because they work so hard to do. But when you think of my biggest accomplishments, when I look back at this time, and it's great because you don't have many times to reflect, like you're providing me an opportunity right now to. But when you do, I take most pride in being able to look back and see that we as an institution are really trying to just be more accessible. And we as an institution are really trying to provide a better life for students that are coming from some tough backgrounds.
Yeah.
And the diversity. I'm so pleased. I am just so pleased to see that we're moving in the right direction and representing the Commonwealth. That's so important for a land grant institution, a public institution, to reflect the state that they live in. And the fact that we're finally making progress, and we got a long way to go, we do, but the fact that you haven't seen this progress made in any other period of time prior to these 3 years
Mm-hmm.
shows that we're doing the right thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Where do you see like admissions going like within 10 years? Like, do you see like more progress being made, or like any
Yeah,
idea?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the next 10 years are going to be challenging because you're going to start looking at decrease in the population and decrease in, population for high school seniors that are going through the pipeline. In our field, they call that the enrollment crash. There's a series of years that are coming up where you're going to see a decline on the students that are progressing to college from high school. So a lot of colleges, a lot of universities are really worried. And then COVID-19 happens and everything got accelerated. And so now, unfortunately, you're seeing colleges and universities start to close or merge. And you're seeing a lot of colleges, even here in Virginia, that have missed enrollment targets that are in really tough shape, looking at budget shortfalls that are in tens of millions of dollars. So it's going to be a tough time. Where I see our admissions office moving is continuing to diversify, representing the Commonwealth, continuing to find ways to make it the most affordable education that's possible, and making sure that we're utilizing data every step of the way. And we remain innovative as we move forward. We're still the only school that requires self-reported academic records and in the application process. And what that is the student actually self-reports their courses, their grades, and their test scores. We're test optional this year, but for prior years, they could report their test scores. And what that showed was we were willing to take an innovative step because not a lot of schools are doing that. But it kept us ahead of everyone else. And so what you've seen now in the state is Virginia Tech move into a position where a lot of people are paying attention to us. A lot of people are seeing the great results that we have, but strategically, it puts us in the lead. And that's exactly where you want to be as you enter a period of time that you know is going to be challenging.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I was gonna also ask you, like to make changes, do you think there's a lot of opposition, like as you mentioned previously, like people are afraid of change? Like, do you think like in the future, if we try to implement another change, like there will also be opposition, or?
Yeah, well, I think we changed the biggest fundamental things that needed to be changed. As far as opposition, there wasn't anyone here in the community that was, like holding signs and saying, this can't happen, this is terrible for Virginia Tech. As much as just a lot of questions on how is this going to work, can we explain the details? And that's why it's important to do an education campaign and explain it to all the important stakeholders to get them to understand, why are we doing this? Why are we even making a change? And if we are making a change, why are we doing this specific change? Why do we think this is going to fix it? We're lucky. We got a courageous leader, Dr. Sands, leading the university, making it clear that diversity is important, access is important. So that shows that this is why we're doing it. That's the why. The leader of this institution is saying we need to catch up. If we're going to be competitive in the future, we need to catch up. That helped a lot. That helped a lot with the conversations because we were able to show we're doing this to fall in line with the leadership This is what leadership is asking for, and this is how it's going to get us to that 40% goal. And I will say, when Dr. Sands first introduced that 40% of the entering class as underrepresented or underserved, this was back, I think, in 2016, we were maybe 30%, 31%. Most people didn't think it was even a possibility. And now, this past year, we got to 39%. Not only is it a possibility, but we almost got it. Wow. And so it really changes the conversations, and it changes the attitudes. And people see the richness that comes from increasing diversity in our class. You know, they see the quality of the classroom discussion go up. Because you have people from different backgrounds, different experiences. And that makes every student here at Virginia Tech a better student, a better individual as well.
Sure. Yeah, I've definitely seen an increase in diversity. Since I came here in 2017, I've seen a significant increase in diverse people. So it's a really good accomplishment for you guys. Yeah. So how do you ensure that you're not only like accepting diverse candidates, but also like retaining them and making them stay in the Black space?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so key, right? You got to make sure everyone we're bringing in is going to be successful. You know, it's a lot of strong partnerships with the colleges and the deans, associate deans, department heads, making them understand that this is how we can progress, keep a watch on progression towards the degree. We got a fantastic leader here on campus, Dr. Rachel Holloway, who oversees academic support and success, making sure everything's moving forward, and is a great liaison between faculty and the administration and students, just making sure everything is moving forward and the students' best interests are kept in mind each step of the way. I mean, the way I see it is if a student decides to come to Virginia Tech, they have what it takes to be successful.
Right.
Or we would not have offered them admission. And so it's really making sure that since they have the skills needed, that we're providing the right support to get them to the finish line. And so there's a lot of analysis that takes place trying to find where are the weak points. You know, why are we losing some at junior year? We're doing great from freshman to sophomore year. It's, I think, 94% retention rate. But how can we make sure we're keeping everyone else as they move forward? So you're exactly right. That's part of the conversation, and making sure that everyone we bring in, since they are well suited and positioned to be successful, that they realize that success while they're here at Virginia Tech.
That's awesome. So my last question for you is, so you also serve as the president for ValHen, which is the largest nonprofit that focuses on higher education for Latinos. So what is your biggest accomplishment, you know, being president of this organization? And like,
okay, yeah. So ValHen I love ValHen. So it's like, as you mentioned, one of the leading nonprofits here in Virginia, focus on college attainment for Latinx youth. Its whole sole focus is trying to get more Latinx into college. And it's been a fantastic experience. It's been a fantastic opportunity. The greatest accomplishment of that was the Hispanic College Institute, which has been held here at Virginia Tech for the last few years. But that was is a program that essentially pulls in students that are doing everything right. They have strong GPAs, they have strong test scores, but they're not necessarily considering college for whatever reason. Usually because of a knowledge deficit. They don't know, they're not familiar with the process, what they have to do. Some of them are children of newly arrived immigrants, and this whole system, just to try to figure out how it even works is a challenge. I mean, it's actually really, if you take a step back and realize, all right, if I didn't get all the information I have gotten as I was progressing through the American education system, you know, elementary school, the high school and all of that, and come in with none of that as a high schooler, you know, sometimes even as late as a sophomore or junior, there's a huge gap. It's very confusing. You know, there's a lot that you kind of build as you go through that process. And even then, the gap between high school and college is tough, which is why you don't see everyone going. And so ValHen's focus on that, and then creating a program that completely just zero ins on that, making sure students are going to be successful, has been a great pleasure. It's been fantastic to see so many hundreds of Latinx leaders come to Blacksburg's campus to help these students. We did a virtual program this year. I think we had over 200 students, but typically we bring in about 150 here on campus. It's fantastic to see our community come together. And again, this kind of like what I was saying earlier, where my entire family came to celebrate, me graduating college. Same type of thinking. It's the community coming together, and we will celebrate, and we do celebrate when they graduate, because it was a community effort. It was our people coming together and making sure we continue to move forward. We continue to progress.
Right. We want to create like a home away from home type of environment. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this first session. We really appreciate having you on. And
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this talk. I hope others will find it useful.
It's been great learning more about you, and really great contributions to the Latinx community here. Really proud to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You did a great job too.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.